Pete's mum, actually, and this is my garden. As you can see, I take good care of it. It's my sanctuary, and I find this place allows me to relax. It's a special place. Mine and Julie's special place.
Today, Peter Smart has allowed cameras into his London home for the first time since his attention-grabbing headlines in 2007. Now, nearly 2 years after his story came to light, Peter has finally agreed to break his silence and tell his side of the story.
The last few years have been fairly traumatic, but, you know, luckily I've had the support of Julie to pull me through it. And now I feel stronger, like a ape with a hammer.
Well, it was like a bomb to my skull brains, if I'm honest. As soon as the papers got hold of him, Pete shot off the scene like a whippet chasing a wet Tampax. Like that. It was odd. Me and Pete, we go back a long way, and I've never seen him lock himself away like this. But what do you expect? Julie was on the scene.
Since what Peter referred to as his second renaissance, life has become a solitary affair for Peter, preferring the quiet intimacy of his home in Snaresbrook, East London. Now, finally away from the public glare, Peter feels he can truly be who he wants to be.
This is my garden. As you can see, I take good care of it. It's my sanctuary, and I find this place allows me to relax. It's a special place. Mine and Julie's special place. Listen, when all is said and done, life goes on. You have to pick yourself up and be strong. And I feel I've done that. What was it Hitler said? Don't let anything or anyone stand in your way. Powerful words. A great philosophy in so many ways.
Yeah, but Hitler murdered 6 million Jews.
Did he? Or Adolf Hitler?
The last 2 years have been incredibly difficult for Peter. As well as being bombarded with hate mail, Peter has been at the centre of a hate campaign organised by members of the mainstream press.
I did, yeah. I became known as the Forrest Chump, which was a variation on Forrest Gump, that film about the retard. But I've gotten over that. I think it would be selfish to dwell on the past. And anyway, I'm not a shellfish, I'm a human being. It was equally difficult for Julie, but she soon pulled herself together, and I think it was her who showed me how to be strong.
No, I'm not mad at Pete. I feel sorry for the prat. It's Julie I'm mad at. Up until she came along, things between me and Pete were perfect. We were happy. The sex was amazing. He'd used cucumbers and everything. Life was brilliant. A lot of fun. He was a good bloke.
Oh yeah, he was always joking around having a laugh. And that's what I remember most about Pete. That and his chest. He was the life and soul of the party. He used to take the mick out of people with disabilities, people with different ethnicities. A real card. We were like brothers, and then Julie came on the scene, and it went a little bit savage.
On the 17th of March 2007, whilst working as a tree surgeon for his local council, Peter suffered a near-fatal fall from a 30-foot oak tree, almost sending him to an early grave.
My first thoughts were he's gone and got himself killed. And then the hospital rang and told me he was alive, which was a great relief. So I took myself off to the hospital.
Honestly? I think he looks absolutely fine at the hospital. Apart from the broken arms, legs, pelvis, blood all over his mush. Fine. But he kept on jamming about this bloody dream that he'd had.
When I fell from the tree and hit the floor, it was all a bit of a blur. But what I do remember is that I felt no pain. Then this white light seemed to suck me up like a hungry baby. As I started to rise towards it, I felt the roots of the tree that I'd fallen from start to grab onto my ankles and pull me back down to earth. And then the light just vanished. Ironic, really. The tree that had almost killed me is now saving my life. I remember telling Greg this in the hospital. The look on his face.
Well, he was tripping his tits off, weren't he? That was bleeding obvious. Old Forrest Chump were convinced his soul had been rescued from heaven. Can you believe that? Personally, I thought it was all a load of des wash. The whole thing stunk of puss-puss as far as I was concerned.
I thought he'd obviously had a whack to the nut, brain damage or summit, but the nurses assured me he was fine. Landed on his arse, not his head. In hindsight, things would have been a lot easier had he suffered the brain damage.
This near-death experience seemed to have a profound effect on Peter. He not only believed that his escape from death was due to the spirit of the tree he had fallen from, he now believed a special bond had been formed between his soul and that of the tree world.
Basically, I cut through my harness with my chainsaw and fell from the tree. I completely shattered my pelvis, as you can see here in this photo. My arm was completely gone to mash up, but I was okay in myself because I knew I'd been saved by the tree.
Even before the accident, he had weird girlfriends. When I met him, he was shacked up with a deaf midget called Rose. It was an abusive relationship. She'd kick the crap out of him, leave bite marks all over his hair. She had fangs like Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, he did have strange taste in women, to be fair. I think Pat was Pete's most conventional girlfriend. He liked his midgets back in the day, and then he moved on to the whole Burns victim thing for a while, and Julie came onto the scene. Things went a bit mad, caught us off guard. A bit like when jelly falls onto your fists, a real shock. Poor old Pat. Knocked her to the ground 9/11 style.
After Peter was released from hospital, he spent the next 3 weeks in convalescence tending to his prized collection of bonsai trees. It was during this period that he met Julie, who would play a significant role in his life.
It was a bolt out of the blue, to be fair. I mean, I'd never been attracted to a bonsai tree before, or any plant life for that matter. But it just seems so organic, really. I mean, one moment I'm sitting there trimming the branches of my buxus, and the next I'm getting an erection. Not one of the semi-skimmed ones, neither. A full, fat lob-on. And I thought, that's odd.
When he left the hospital, he weren't right. Kept babbling on about being rescued from the jaws of death by trees and what have you. He was getting on my tits, to be fair. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt and took it to post-traumatic stress. And then I find him tucked up in bed with a chuffing bonsai tree.
It is different, I'll be honest. I mean, for instance, she can't walk or eat pudding like we do. But it's not all about that. Julie's brought me something that no one's ever brought me before. A purpose. And she's a great listener, aren't you? Ding, 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 ding. Huh? What's that? Did you hear that?
No.
No. What, are you deaf?
Oh yeah, he's sick in the mind, he needs help. I mean, have you seen Julie? What's she got that I ain't? Bloody branches. It was after I found them in bed that I phoned the papers.
Do I agree with Pat telling the papers? Yeah. Yeah, I think I do. I mean, have you ever had your eyes clawed out and a cold balm left to rest on the sockets? Jesus! It hurts. A lot.
She has been my rock. When all that stuff was said about me in the newspapers, she stood firm by me. And I love her for that. I'm not angry at Pat for what she did. It was to be expected. I mean, finding a partner in bed with another woman, I mean, it must be pretty traumatic. Especially when she's as beautiful as Julie.
Now that the heat from the press has subsided, Peter and Julie feel they can live a normal life together, doing things most normal couples take for granted, without the attention from the media. But no matter how well adapted their life becomes, there are still serious questions regarding the very nature of Peter's fascination. We spoke to Dr. Herb Griffith and asked if he'd ever encountered this type of condition before.
Oh, absolutely. It's very common after a traumatic experience for a patient to form a very close bond with what we would normally deem an unusual object. There are reports of soldiers falling in love with hand grenades after having their legs blown off by hand grenades. I once treated a young man myself who grew incredibly close to the noose that he had tried to hang himself with. He and the noose are still very happily married to this day.
So it seems that for the foreseeable future, the union between man and plant could be an incredibly close one. And thankfully for Peter and Julie, it seems that the public interest that forced them into isolation has now begun to wane, allowing them to live the life that they feel they deserve.
We feel we can live now. We feel we can move on and look towards our future. What's that? That's right, yeah, we happy. Did you hear that?
No.
No. Have you ever thought of having your ears syringed? He does, he needs them syringed.